Is it important for you to be here today?
Well, I'm troubled about the role of this meeting. The city website doesn't give any information about a proposal yet. La Presse has come up with an internal document from the police department that suggests that there can be a massive expansion in the number of tasers or electric pistols that police have, and the number of officers authorized to use them. And that sort of coincides with the Toronto and Ottawa police trying to do the same thing. So I think it's credible, that document. Now, recently, a citizen died in Montreal when he was tasered, hit with a baton, with pepper spray, these so-called intermediate weapons that are less lethal, and he died in a 90-second intervention. A graphic video thousands of Montrealers saw and caused them to raise questions. My contention after the death of Killer Regis in 27 when he was tasered 6 times by the Montreal police in 2 minutes is that intermediate weapons don't save lives, as the police contend they do. The use of force, and often inappropriate use against people who are unarmed, relatively harmless, who may be agitated or may have taken drugs, and who can be handled otherwise. Reuters did a major piece of investigative journalism last year and discovered 1,050 or so people had died after being tasered in the United States by law enforcement in the last 10 or 15 years. They also found out that coroner's reports in several hundred of those cases quite clearly said the taser did it, and that there were 422 lawsuits against municipalities in the United States, which Reuters was able to trace to 220 settlements and 12 judgments and $172 million settled against the various municipalities. Now, it's not only a question of money, it's a question of how do we provide effective law enforcement in the least forceful way possible. A firearm can be pretty lethal, but however, recourse to it is really rare here in Canada. And police officers think twice, and they try to use methods that aren't violent. But to give the police an arsenal that is easily, without thinking, used, whether it's plastic bullets, whether it's batons, whether it's pepper spray, or whether it's the taser, leads to a situation where violence becomes that much more of an everyday effect. Tasers and other intermediate weapons were used 904 times a day in the United States, according to a report, a scientific study that came out in 2015. So it's become the vehicle of choice. Now, I'm not saying the Montreal police would necessarily abuse the taser if they had more of it, but however, it's happened elsewhere. New Times revealed in 2015 in a major piece of journalism that the Miami police had used the taser over 3,000 times in just a couple of years when it was liberalized there, and they were using it against the homeless just to move them out, against people who had, evident mental issues, and they even used it against a school child of 6 years old. Totally inappropriate use. And there's been enough documentation about the use of these instruments against detainees that I think we have to be prudent. There is no necessity to add additional intermediate weapons to the arsenal of the Montreal Police Force. And this meeting was advertised just before the Easter holidays, and nowhere does it say that they're going to give more intermediate weapons to the Montreal Police. So many groups may not be here today, but it's a legitimate question to ask given La Presse's story of today.
But given the number of occasions where lives could have been saved had police not used a firearm, logic tells that, something not necessarily as lethal, clearly a taser gun could be.
Well, not necessarily lethal. Could be everything from waiting out a person to bringing in specialized resources. It doesn't necessarily mean what we saw in the case of Mr. Corleone, who died here in Montreal last year. 5 different weapons were used against him in 90 seconds. That's lethal, he's dead. Draw your own conclusion. I think really basically the question is this. In the United States, according to the literature I've read, taser's been used over 3 million times since it's been sold to police departments. That tells me it's being used far too often. There are all sorts of issues that can be handled otherwise, and it creates death, injuries, and long-term scars, only physical scars. And if that's the case, I believe better policing, control over firearms, and using less violent methods can be more effective than allowing the easy use of instruments. and I'm going to say so.
What about those who say that if there's proper training for those intermediate weapons, that would again help alleviate the concerns that you have?
Training certainly is an element of it, but however, officers elsewhere have been trained as well, and sometimes it leads to what I call lazy policing. It's the easiest thing to do. Instead of thinking it through and doing something that's less forceful, take longer, it's too easy to use one of these intermediate weapons because it resolves the situation right away. The British Medical Journal has given out the opinion that electric pistols are not all that much less lethal than firearms. And they've documented a really large number of cases where people who've been shot with these weapons developed cardiac arrhythmia, led to immediate death or long-term health problems. So I think the way we're going about it, should raise questions. We had a moratorium after Mr. Regis' death. There were no additional tasers bought until the Coderre administration bought 44 of them last year at a cost of $686,000. Slipped through council, almost no debate on it. 7 members of council voted against, but it went through. And now, all of a sudden, there's a request, just like in Ottawa and like Toronto, for more of these tasers. It makes me wonder if there's sort of a strategy of police departments all at the same time to try to, with relatively new council here in Montreal anyways, to try to slip something through.
If we do hear today that is the plan to get more tasers, and we find out how much that might cost, where would you put that money?
Okay. For me, it's not a money issue. It's a question of better policing. In 2008, after Mr. Regis' death, a coalition against taser use was formed, included the Ligue des droits et libertés du Québec, the Ligue des Noirs du Québec, Action Autonome, a number of city councillors, and Thomas Mulcair, at the time Louise Aoril as well. And we were able to force Quebec to put in some rules, and in fact, after the CBC report on the fact that some tasers malfunctioned and shot a greater charge than the specifications said, they actually withdrew all the tasers in Quebec for a year. This coalition can easily come back because I think the issue we thought was resolved to the satisfaction of people. The fact that Montreal police have not had a lot of tasers up to now has in no way contributed to the Wild West in Montreal with more people being killed. Public is happy with the options that are there. The police killing of any sort is certainly going to cause repercussions in the community. But however, adding additional ways for the police to intervene in a forceful manner does not necessarily win public support. In the United States, there's an additional group of studies that seem to imply that the people who are tasered the most tend to be visible minorities, disproportionate to their numbers in the population. I'm not saying that's the case in Canada, but we can learn from the data in the US, and the data raises red flags.
En français, peut-être, M. Marvin, quelques mots.
Ça?
Quelques mots. Oui, vous allez éclaircir.
Salut Marvin, bonsoir. Je suis enregistré de Montréal 2. Marvin, je vais prendre la parole dans quelques minutes.
Donc, vous êtes venu faire valoir votre position, en fait, aujourd'hui. Là.
Je vais dans quelques minutes faire une intervention ici à la Commission Sécurité publique. Après la mort de Regis Kilim, qui est tiré 6 fois par des pistolets de pression électrique en 2007, j'étais partie d'une coalition, une grande coalition avec la Ligue des droits et libertés, la Ligue des Noirs, des élus comme Thomas Mulcair et Louise Aoril et des autres personnes contre le taser. Pour nous, le taser, c'est la banalisation de violence, amène vers l'escalation rapide de violence dans une intervention policière et peut être utilisé dans une façon inappropriée contre les personnes qui peut être maîtrisée dans une autre façon. Dans les États-Unis, Reuters a émis l'année dernière une enquête journalistique qui indique, à la grande surprise de tout le monde, qu'il y a 1050 morts dans les interventions policières avec les tasers depuis 15 ans. Et de ça, le coroner a dit clairement que le taser est impliqué et la cause de la mort en plusieurs centaines de cas, et qui amène à 422 poursuites, qui a amené les villes à payer 172 millions de dollars de compensation contre celle qui a fait des plaintes pour une mort aux mains des policiers locaux.
Donc le message, M. Rotrand, si vous le résumez en quelques secondes, c'est pas ce qui va faire en sorte qu'on va sauver des vies à Montréal.
Le message est que la police de Toronto, Ottawa et Montréal, par coïncidence, en même temps demandent plus de tasers la population veut moins de violence et n'accepte pas que le taser est une façon de réduire la force policière et réduire le nombre des interventions mortelles.
Alors, vous voulez
Pourquoi,
que
là?
M. Prudhomme recule, dans le fond, sur ce qui a
Ce qui est bizarre, les documents de la ville sur le site web de la ville ne disent pas qu'il veut plus de taser. Il y a 5 documents sur les armes intermédiaires, mais ça ne dit pas qu'il veut plus de taser. C'est la presse qui a sorti un document confidentiel interne de la service police qui semble dire que la requête était faite pour acheter de plus. Et je prends ça comme sérieux. L'année dernière, l'administration Coderre a levé le moratoire qui existait depuis 2008 pour effectivement acheter 44 tasers, 686 000 5 000 cartouches et a donné ça au service police. C'est évidemment pas assez, il semble vouloir plus.
Mais
Ça peut être approuvé par le conseil.
Oui,
la ville.
oui, et j'espère que ce qui arrive aujourd'hui, qu'il y ait un message fort envoyé à la Commission. La Commission a le pouvoir. Le service police, dans mes expériences, j'ai été ancien membre de cette Commission il y a 30 ans, agit pas sans l'approbation des élus sur la Commission de sécurité publique.
Donc, leur fusil d'épaule, comme disait mon collègue, vous espérez que ça envoie un message clair après la commission.
Exactement.
Après un changement. Par contre, nous, on en parlait déjà dans un reportage il y a quelques mois. Je me demande juste, dans les armes non létales, est-ce qu'il y en a que vous...
Je suis pas expert dans tout. Je sais que le pistolet d'impulsion électrique pose des questions graves.
Non, mais parce que les balles de plastique aussi.
Les balles de plastique, je ne suis pas expert. Pour moi, la meilleure façon de faire est comme les policiers en Angleterre qui ne sont pas armés du tout, qui ont vraiment recours aux armes intermédiaires, qui utilisent des stratégies qui datent du 19e siècle, qui est beaucoup plus sereine, moins de force et se semble de fonctionner.
Est-ce qu'on devrait désarmer les policiers?
Je ne dis pas ça. Pour moi, l'arme à feu est une dernière recul. C'est rarement utilisé ici. Il y a une époque que les policiers de Montréal ont utilisé beaucoup, mais ça a arrêté dans les années 80. Et depuis ce temps-là, très rare d'utiliser et très rare le nombre de tirs. Dans les années 70, les policiers parfois tirent 6, 7 fois dans la même intervention. Maintenant, c'est très rare d'avoir 7 tirs par année. Pour moi, la réponse que oui, donne-nous plus accès à ces autres armes, on va utiliser moins notre arme à feu, je n'accepte pas ça. Ils utilisent ça rarement et de donner les autres armes va leur permettre d'être plus violents dans les interventions.
Mr. Rotrand? Okay.